of who we are because we're all connected. We're all
We are.
connected.
We are. And welcome back, all my Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast fans. I'm Janice Debo. I'm your host. And today I have a fun gal here. Yes, I just told her she looks like an Indian princess, doesn't she? And it turns out she does have some Indian, Native American in her heritage. April, welcome.
Hey, Janice. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. And thank you for acknowledging that. Maybe my ancestors are here with us right now as we're going to have this conversation together.
Who knows? I mean, I believe in that. And actually, my two nephews by my older brother who passed last year, I think they are 25 or 30%. I don't know how those things work. Lumbee in North Carolina, the Lumbee tribe. And you know, their mother was 50%. So I guess that makes them 25%. Is that how that works?
I don't know how all the things work, but it's interesting even to think of that. Our the book doesn't tell you the cover, right? Or how am I saying this? You can't judge a book by its cover, basically, saying that growing up, you know, nobody knew any of that. We didn't unpack it. We didn't look at our heritage or anything. We're just kind of classified, right, as um, black, white, Asian, that type of thing. And now with amazing technology, we can find out more about our roots and where we come from. And that really helps to just kind of, put the pieces together of who we are because we're all connected. We're all
Yeah.
connected.
We are, and in doing my memoirs, I've been doing a lot of research with my parents and beyond. So I've got a cousin who's done all that, and he's hard to reach, but I'm hoping I can get some more from him. It's fascinating because I actually found online, which, like you said, we couldn't have done even 20 years ago. I found my parents' marriage certificate. And it blew me
Yeah.
away. Yeah, I sent it to my sister. I said, "Can you believe this?" She went, "How did you do that?" I just kept digging, and as it turns out, there is a gal that I interviewed a couple weeks ago. She lives in Dubai, but she's created an app to keep people in touch and put in their family
Oh,
history and track their own for the future generations. Yeah.
that's amazing because we're losing that. Here in the States, some people, get into the ancestry and things like that. But if you go to Ireland, if you go to, those types of countries, they know their lineage all the way down. They know their family crest. They know all of the things. And once, people ventured over here, things kind of got lost in the shuffle. So, yeah.
They did. Yeah, I find it fascinating. And I think more so as I write my memoirs, because I don't want to be inaccurate in some things, but I'll tell you what, it's a challenge. But it's fun. It's like digging for gold. It's,
It is. It is. It's nice to discover more about ourselves.
it really is. Speaking of which, Miss April, let's talk about you. And okay, there's a little bit of Native American in you just found out, but let's talk about where did you grow up? What did you enjoy doing as a kid, and how did that play into what you're up to now?
Mm,
Tough question.
yes, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest
Oh, over
on
here?
a on Whidbey Island,
Oh, wow.
and uh, nature, the woods was my, I say, first home. I learned a lot from the nature, from the animals. I still do love catching frogs and toads, and I know, right? All
Oh,
the things. And I really learned a lot, as I would spend my time outside and exploring in the woods there. And that was because, my home, it wasn't a safe environment. There was a lot of, it was kind of emotionally detached. My mother was disabled, and so my father was in survival mode. So he was trying to make ends meet. He was doing his best for what he knew how. And so for me, being outside, being in nature, running free,
Yeah.
that's where my love was and still is, as we just finished 4 years of full-time RVing. And
Wow.
so we were all across the nation, and we got to see friends and just go to places that we normally wouldn't. And I just am so in awe of the beauty of this nation. And I say to people, get out and explore and be curious, because you never know what you're going to discover. I actually didn't think that I would, from coming from the Pacific Northwest. I love the trees, the green, that type of thing. I actually fell in love with Arizona, believe it
Really?
or not.
Mm.
And I found the beauty there, and the sunsets are absolutely spectacular. And you just can feel the energy there of the sun, of the earth, and it's very grounding, very grounding. Yeah.
I've been to Arizona once. I spent up 5 days there, and I won a trip to the Boulders, which is outside Scottsdale. And I noticed that about the sunsets. They are brilliant. And I learned a lot about desert life too. I took a tour of the desert, and the person I was with, we went on a Jeep tour of the desert. And he explained how fragile the desert is. And you don't think about that. You think, oh, it's rough and rugged and tough, but it's extremely fragile environment. And
Mhm.
yeah, now I'm not a fan of excessive heat, and it's in Central Oregon.
You wilt,
Yeah,
right?
you do. There's no humidity to speak of, so you dry out. But being from North Carolina, I love and appreciate the fall colors and the spring flowers. And it sounds like you grew up on the other side of the mountains, or you're on the other side of the Cascades or whatever mountains.
Yes, it was in the Pacific Northwest. I was just south of Vancouver, BC.
Oh yeah, yeah. You were
Yeah, in
on
the San
the
Juan Islands. Yeah.
yeah, you were on the rainy side. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I can appreciate that. It is beautiful. It really is. And that's fascinating. Traveling for 4 years. Wow.
4 years, yes.
That's
And just learning more about myself. I've been married for over 32 years, and I was still learning more about my husband too.
Hmm.
When you're in close quarters,
I
some people
bet.
might think it's a deal breaker, right? But it was more of, I know from my own practices that, and it might be a hard pill to swallow for some of the viewers and listeners right now, but nobody can make you feel
Mhm.
a certain way. Nobody can.
Yep.
And so I had to really sit with that. When something would happen and he would become activated or heightened about something, I just took a breath and sat back and thought, okay, he's working through his own thing. Is he asking me for support? Is he asking me for help? No. So right now is not a good time to give my opinion on anything. And then all of a sudden it just cleared. It would clear every time. Or if I found myself getting a little frustrated about something, then I would remind myself, well, this is his love language. This is how he sees that he can support me. And then I would remember, oh, yeah. And what was it about him that I fell in love with in the first place? And I think people get away from that, don't they? One of my coaches told me that we turn princes into frogs, right? So we say, you find your frog and you kiss it, to get the Prince Charming or whatever. But really, we find this prince, and then with our thoughts and what we project on that person, which isn't fair at all,
Right.
then we turn them into frogs. and then that's where we separate and we lose ourselves. We lose that connection, and it's so important to keep that.
It is. In your journey, where was your favorite spot when you were RVing?
Mm.
You said Arizona.
Oh,
Was there another one?
everybody asks that question. Uh, wow. I'd have to say Las Cruces, New Mexico
Really? Okay.
was gorgeous, and hiking up there, and Pleasant Lake in Arizona.
Okay.
It's outside of Phoenix. That's where I received my diving certification. So that is a special place in my heart. I'm a advanced diver
Really?
and a scuba diver. Yeah. And so just, yeah, every place had a special, special meaning, and just being curious and discovering more what what sets it apart from the other places too. So
Yeah. Scuba diving, at one point in my life, I wanted to do that. I went on a cruise to the Caribbean and I did snorkeling, but they didn't offer scuba diving. Of course, you've got to be certified and you've got to know what you're,
yes,
and it's a
yes.
lot trickier. I'm sure you would weigh in on
It
that.
is. It
Uh,
is. I dove in Pensacola, Florida. That's where I got my advanced, and I dove down to 86 feet.
oh, wow.
And when I got down there, let me tell you, Janice, it took everything I had because my body was like on alert, right? Not safe, not safe. Are you going to breathe? Can you equalize? Can you pop your ears, right? Because the pressure.
Mhm.
So we're going down this rope and I'm the last one. And I told the dive master, I said, I'm going to need time to equalize. It just takes my ears a little bit longer. And my dive buddy, my husband, was just about 5 feet away from me on the line, and he kept looking at me, and he was going, "This means, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm okay." And then I had to go up a little bit, and then my ears would relax, and then I would go down just a little bit more. And this was about at 15, 20 feet. And then finally, it was just, I heard this voice says, relax, your body knows what it needs to do. And I thought, yes, my body is more intelligent than me, than what my mind is trying to do right now. So I took a nice deep breath and my ears popped and it was like, woo, here we go. And I just went down the line and found myself at the bottom. And then all of a sudden, these jack amberfish, they're big silver fish and they have a copper stripe down the side of them. There were hundreds of them, and they created this. The dive master said it's kind of a rare thing to see this hallelujah when they circle around you, and it's like a big huge tube, and you look up and it's nothing but these circular silver beautiful fish.
Really?
And I smiled, and it was like, I'm being celebrated right now. And I was smiling, and then all of a sudden, because you smile, you squint, you lose the suction on the mask, and it's like the
Oh,
water started leaking in. I'm like,
no.
okay, no smiling underwater. So I just relaxed, and it just went beautifully. So that's something too, just to remember that our bodies are so intelligent. And when we pause and breathe, as we were talking before the show, as you were talking about being a little distracted, a little bit heightened,
Uh-huh.
just pausing and breathing and allowing that natural support that we have within ourselves. That's what I'm all about. And
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm still learning too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to call you the fish whisperer.
Yeah, that was just incredible. It really was.
That is just so amazing. And fun. I don't regret not pursuing that. I've never been in a position where I could pursue it. I was in the middle of a state in North Carolina, in the middle of the state in Oregon, and yeah, I can swim okay, but I just never pursued it. Now, one thing I realized watching a movie last night that I don't like bucket list because to me, that's a negative. But something I want to do, we need to find a different name for that list, is is I want to get in a hot air balloon. Did you get a chance to do that when you were in?
Oh, no, I have not, but I've always wanted to. And they just had a hot air balloon festival here in Indianola, Iowa, where we're parked. We're parked actually in Des Moines area, but it's a national thing. We're talking, I forgot, hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 hot air balloons.
Hmm.
We're up in the sky. So
Oh, I love
that's
it.
something magnificent to see.
It really is. I had when I was in Arizona at, like I said, the Scottsdale area, I the time we were there, they did have a hot air balloon
They
festival.
still do. And we were at the Lake Pleasant, and we could see the hot air balloons. They would have like tours or things, and it was so beautiful to see them float by.
Yeah, that's the movie I was watching. I don't recall which one. I watched so many. But it was really cute because they went up at night, and
Mm.
it was in Australia or New Zealand, I think. But I don't know why I find those fascinating and find them so, I don't, not even romantic, just I don't know, it's like going into heaven. You're not in an airplane, so you're not enclosed. You got the fresh air, and um I just find it fascinating that I really still want to do that. And everybody I've ever said it to is like, oh God, that's dangerous. I wouldn't do that. I'm like,
Well,
"Ah,
you're not your people then. You wouldn't want them in the hot air
no,
balloon
you
with
know
you.
what? Well, that's great. Now let's talk about a little bit about, are you still RVing? I was thinking you settled down somewhere.
Yes, we've landed here in Des Moines, and we've parked our fifth wheel. It's a fifth wheel
Okay.
in storage. So she's put to bed. And so whenever we want to go out and explore, we'll just pick that back up because it is freeing. And I think you're talking about the hot air balloon, right? It's like being light and free and being able to see across the land, and just you feel like you're one with maybe, a higher source or
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where has courage played a part in your life growing up or as an adult? Where have you had to embrace courage bigger than you can imagine?
Mm,
Looking back, usually we see
yeah,
it better.
yes, for sure. That's a great question, Janice. I would like to say, like every day, courage comes in, although the big pivotal moment for me was when I was 39, and my husband was going to retire. So he was lifelong Navy. He spent 26 years in the Navy. I was along the ride with him for 24. And so he received his final orders. We appreciate your service, but you're forced to retire.
Oh my.
And so it wasn't something that we were both expecting, and that's okay because there's always a silver lining with anything when you trust in the process. So I had just started my Reiki practice at that time. And I really did. I prayed for great intention, the highest good for my family, whatever was to come of either him retiring or making Master Chief. That's the highest of enlisted in the
Okay.
Navy. And so we got the answer. He was going to retire. And right away, my mind said, what? He's supposed to get Master Chief when we were going to move back to Woodby Island, and we were going to blah, 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 all the things, the mind, as they say, man plans and God laughs,
Yes.
you know? And so then it was just like a knife cut through that. And again, I heard you prayed for the great intention and the highest good for you and your family.
Mhm.
And then I paused and I said, that's right, I did. There's got to be something more here than what I can see. in this moment, because really we're looking through a little keyhole,
We are.
right? Through the door. We can only see, our minds can only see a fraction
Hmm.
of what are, the possibilities. So when I relaxed and I accepted, that's the big thing. When I accepted this and didn't beat the drum of, oh, why didn't you make Master Chief? Or, oh, this wasn't have supposed to happen this way. Oh, I don't want to, blah, 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 all the things, right? Kicking and screaming, resisting. I did not do that. We moved here to Iowa,
Hmm.
and I had, because of the courage that I had to put myself out there, to want more for myself, to listen to that inner voice too, of the nudges that kept coming up about going back to school. I had a free ride at Drake University, which is a private university here.
Oh.
I was paid to go to school because of the September 11th GI Bill. It took me just a click of an email that changed the whole trajectory of my life and how I'm here with you today. And I'm very serious about that. When I had that curiosity of seeing this, it was like a little yellow ribbon icon on the email header, and it was from, military.gov. I never opened those emails, but it said something to the effect of, you and your dependents can, have free college scholarship or grant.
Hmm.
Okay. And so I was curious enough to open it up. And I knew my husband did not want to go back to college or school. That was not his wheelhouse. But something kept nudging me to do that. And so it took the courage and strength for me to beat the drum about that. I've worked in customer service for so long. I was an assistant to lawyers. I wasn't a legal secretary. I can't say that, but I was doing things, doing paperwork, answering calls and things. I worked in so many different areas. I'm very adaptable. And my husband saw that in me and he said, well, why don't you just work, doing customer service? You're so good at it. And this was the right, it came to a head because he kept saying, I don't know why you want to go back to school. It didn't make sense to him because he didn't want to go. He didn't understand.
Right.
So it was like this lion's roar that came out of me, literally. And I said, because I'm worth more than a minimum wage job.
Mhm.
And it just came out. And I actually wrote about it in
Oh.
an anthology, and it was called The Lion's Roar, and it's part of Susanna Dawn and CJ's anthology, Moving Beyond Boxes.
Yeah.
And so I wrote about that whole scenario. So if anybody's curious about that, um, and that was the courage, right? There was something more. I wanted more for myself. He was shifting away from the Navy.
Hmm.
He was finding his own way. Now it was time for me to step up and do something for myself because I had followed him around all over the West Coast, to Japan twice,
My
to
God.
all the places. I did all the things. I was that doting wife, making sure everything was good for him and our son. And now it was like, well, where's me?
Mhm.
How, where's mine?
Right.
Seriously, where is mine? And so this is what happened. And I'm so grateful I did because I was on the dean's list. I had a 3.8 GPA. And growing up, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. So that's what hindered me from wanting to learn more, and again, the courage again, reading this text, reading these things that I had to decipher and
Well,
understand what. Go
what did
ahead.
you go back to school for?
So I was going back to school for psychology because I love that. I'm curious about social psychology, why people behave and do different things when they're in different environments. Although when I got into Drake, they were more about um, addiction
Mm.
And, they had a course more about that. Um, and they didn't have the social psychology course yet. And so I shifted to sociology. So I minored in psychology. I still have that credit because I got enough credit for doing that, and majored in sociology. So understanding the dynamics, on the macro level of, the impact
Yeah.
of how social constructs impact different cultures, different communities, and then, of course, down to the person. But what really pivoted, what really stuck in my mind, Janice, was when I was in my health psychology class and they were talking about stress, and they
Oh.
were talking about how there was a case study of women who were breast cancer survivors. And they said that when they took like a personality assessment
Mhm.
of how they were and everything, the ones that had more healthy boundaries, that knew how to say no to things, that, focused on themselves more than others, those were the survivors. The ones that are codependent, the ones that give, 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 and never give back to themselves, those were the ones that didn't survive. There was a strong correlation between that. So I'm not saying that people with codependency or the givers are going to get breast cancer. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is be very mindful of the boundaries. Pay
Mhm.
attention to what your heart is calling to. Because
Mhm.
think about where breast cancer is,
Yep.
right here, right in our heart area,
Absolutely.
right behind the lungs, right? And so through my own experiences with the energy work, with understanding chakras, with understanding the dynamics of meridians in the body, and if there's blocks there,
Mhm.
because we're not living a fulfilled life,
Right.
or we're on that hamster wheel, go, 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 do, 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 and not giving back to ourselves, our bodies can't relax. The nervous system is heightened,
Hmm.
right? We're in that sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, freeze, fawning, go, 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 do, do, do for everyone else. And when we can take a breath and bring it back to ourselves and ask ourselves, what do I want right now?
Yes.
Then we can fill our cups. It's so important to fill our cups. It's not selfish at all.
No.
That way, that can overflow for others. Once our cups are filled, we feel energy, we feel that vitality of, oh yeah, I want to help Janice out. This is great. I love her energy. I love this, support system, instead of, oh my gosh, do I have the energy to even do this? Or, when somebody reaches out for help, and then bringing that forward, because a lot of people, they're walking around and their cups are bone dry and cracked.
Hmm. Exactly. Well, that's a good segue to talk about what you're doing now. So why don't we venture into that, because you know a lot about it because you do it and you help people through that, all of that. So let's tell our audience what it is you do, and then
Mhm.
we'll.
What I get to experience in life when I co-create or connect with other people, because again, the doing, right? I kind of shift that, even our words that we use, how I support people, how I witness others. And it really is through connecting as we are right now. It really is tuning in, being curious, asking questions, because that's what brings the clarity of how I can support my clients, how I can support the community. It's not a cookie cutter approach of, if you jump through these hoops, then, oh yeah, you'll be healed by the end of this. No, that's not it. It is a journey. It so is. And what it really is, when people come to me with, they're overwhelmed, they're burnout, or they have some maybe chronic fatigue challenges in their body. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to put any labels out there.
Yeah.
And they're wondering, I'm doing all these things, yet I'm still feeling the same way, or I'm still in this rut.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that I'm getting any traction whatsoever. Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing for yourself. As I said before, how are you filling your cup?
Yep.
Oh, maybe I go walking. Okay, how many times do you walk? Oh, maybe twice a week. You know, this is something for ourselves. We have to show up and be committed to ourselves first. We have to learn how to put ourselves first. And the
Mhm.
mind is amazing because it's going to talk us out of it. It's going to say, no, you got laundry to do. You still got this.
Mhm.
You got to walk the dog, all the things. It's going to keep distracting. Although there's always time for ourselves, even if it's just 5 minutes of pausing and being more clear. The clarity, I think, is really important too. And so, how I help support people is by a modality of ways. So, of course, it's mindfulness. You can hear that, right? The undertones of mindfulness, being mindful of what you're needing.
Right.
Then we're going to build your emotional intelligence. This is understanding how you're feeling when you're feeling it and stepping back and acknowledging those emotions that are coming up, because I call them echoes. They're
Mhm.
coming up for a reason, when past traumas or the mind trying to protect us. It's not good or bad. It's
Oh.
just how we're hardwired. And everybody's hardwired differently, as you know.
Mhm.
And then what really helps to unwind all of that is the biodynamic breath work and trauma release system. That is what I'm certified in, and I'm very grateful for this practice because it actually brought to light something that I hadn't even thought of when I started the training. I was in a terrible car accident with my mother,
Ooh.
and she rolled the car, and I flew out the back window, and I tumbled like under the car, and I was part of my left leg was actually under the back rear passenger tire. She didn't know I was outside of the car,
Oh my gosh.
and my people came running up to the driver's side to help her, and she went to put the car in park, and she ran over my leg. She went through each gear, and then so she went through reverse and ran over it again. So my leg did not break. It's a miracle. Although that trauma, my body remembered. The mind says, oh, that happened in the past. You were 9 years old. Look at you now. You're fine. There's no need to bring up this stuff, right? That's what the mind says. We got to focus over here. You got to keep doing the doing.
Doing.
Going in the past isn't going to help anything. But biodynamic breath work isn't about telling the story. It's about feeling and breathing into the body in a connected way to where we can sense where those tensions are being held. And we breathe into it, invite movement, any emotion that wants to come up. It's a wonderful modality. So, long story short, I remembered, oh, my body remembered. It showed me in one of the trainings when
Mm.
I was able to breathe and be in that state, and my support person pushed into an acupressure point in my back where which was holding the trauma. All this time I had no idea. I always wondered why I had lower back challenges. And so she pushed into it, and it was like my body just kind of contorted into like this backward C.
Wow.
And within a flash, Janice, it I was shown like my 9-year-old self flying out the back window and tumbling with the car and landing. The car was right side up. I mean, what a miracle was that,
Oh
right? That
my
it
gosh.
landed right
Yeah.
side up. So then I of course released that, with emotions, with crying, whatever that needed to be, but I was in a safe space. And then I realized all the resentment that I held towards my mother. I didn't even realize that I was holding that. And so that helped heal that past trauma, that wound that my body had been holding for me. And this is science-based. This is showing that your body does keep the score, as Bessel van der Kolk wrote in his book. And I highly encourage those who are curious about it, either reach out to me or even read the book by Gitan Tonkov, the founder of BBTRS. It's called Feel to Heal. So I'll make sure I give you that link.
Okay.
So if people are curious about that, or view it on my website too, because I talk a lot about that.
That's
We
fantastic.
need to go in, we need to witness those parts of ourselves that we've tucked away, that we've told ourselves, no, we got to keep pushing forward. But once we melt those outer layers very gently, this is a very gentle practice, then we can feel the ease and our bodies can start to heal.
Oh, wow. That's powerful stuff. And we'll have all your links. I'm going to wrap us up here. That's fantastic. So all of your links, how people can reach you, get some help, and I would assume that you can do this work remotely.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do virtual and in-person sessions. And I do have a restorative meditation with Reiki the first Thursday of every month. It's free and it's through my website in case anybody's curious about that too. Because this is what I'm all about. I'm here to support people who
Mhm.
are wanting and open to receive more of themselves, because that's what we're all craving.
It is. It really is. So this speaks to a lot of my life. We'll discuss another time, but any final words you would like to leave with our audience?
Mm.
And of course, I'm sure you'll be hearing from some of them.
Yes, I would love just to remind people that there's nothing serious happening right now. There's nothing huge, life-threatening, Just bring it back to your breath. Step back, step away from it, go for a walk, do something, a healthy distraction, and then revisit whatever you're focusing on. Because when you put your attention on your intention, then that helps to shift things as well. And also, I just want to say, keep living with intention too, right?
Yes,
It's my website. Yeah.
absolutely. April, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you, Janice. I appreciate you and everyone tuning in.
Yeah, we could definitely go on a lot longer, but I'm going to wrap it up since we've been going a little over a half hours. That's perfect. And who knows, part two could be coming. We got a lot to
I
talk.
say yes.
I say yes to. Thank you again. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for tuning in and look forward to more guests coming up.